All right. So I thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules to listen to us today. So today we will be going through our presentation. It's called AI, a fundraiser's practical guide. As you can imagine, AI is all around us. It's pretty much the talk of pretty much everywhere you go now. So kind of diving in and helping you guys understand what's out there, what we've tried to use it, how we can use it. We'll talk about some of the pitfalls, some of the challenges with it, and how we see it being used in the foreseeable future. So today it was supposed to be both myself and Bryan doing the presentation. Unfortunately, Bryan has a family emergency. So if you join to hear him speak, I apologize. You're going to be stuck with me. But I did bring in Carolina, who could probably do both my part and Bryan's part in her sleep. So she will definitely be here adding her comments and her experience and her expertise. So thank you, Carolina, for joining me today and keeping me my moral support as well. So thank you.
Happy to do it. And thank you for inviting me, Eugene. I'm excited to share what AI has us excited all about and see what our clients are doing.
My title here at Stella is Director of Digital Fundraising Innovation. If you've worked with me in the past, things like this excite me. And AI and the topic of AI is definitely in the wheelhouse of innovation. But at the same time, AI can be overwhelming. It can be scary. I find that I use it quite often, in my day-to-day life now. So, just recently on the weekend, I was tasked with making dinner. So I was gonna make pizza. So I had the pizza dough in front of me, and I was thinking about uh, a pizza that my wife and I had at Fortino's. If you've been to it's a food chain and they have like a really great pizza. So there's an arugula pizza with a balsamic vinaigrette. And I'm like, I'm gonna surprise my wife. I'm gonna make that pizza. I'm like I had balsamic vinegar. I go, can you make a balsamic reduction vinaigrette with this balsamic vinegar? Um, so I went to AI. I said, I have balsamic vinegar. Can I make a balsamic reduction? Lo and behold, you can. You need some time to stir on the stove and some honey and balsamic vinegar, and it came out pretty good. I surprised my wife, and I look like a chef in the kitchen. So, bonus points for AI for helping me look good with my wife. And then at the same time, recently I read a study where they had, I think, over 100 doctors. They broke the doctors into three separate groups. And then they said, okay, group one, just you. We're going to give you all these cases, and only the doctor themselves is going to try to solve and diagnose the issue at hand. Group two was AI and the doctor together, working together hand in hand through those cases. And then the last one was AI. And then I'm going to push it to the chat real quick. Who do you think won? What group? AI by itself, AI and doctor, or doctor by themselves? AI and Doctor from Lisa. AI and Doctor. Okay, so that one seems to be winning with the two comments we have in the comments. I'll wait a little bit just to see what everybody else says. AI and Doctor. Okay. So for those of you who thought AI and Doctor, which seems to be majority, incorrect. That was the worst one. So reading in the study, they talked about why that probably case. So AI, just to give you one, by overwhelming success, AI on its own beat everybody by leaps and bounds. Then came doctors by themselves, and then AI and doctors was last. And the reason why they think AI and doctors was last, and I was when I initially started off reading the thing, I was on the same boat as most of you who thought that AI and the doctor together would win. It's that unfortunately the doctors bring in their own biases and their own quote unquote pride to the problem. So they look at it and say, I'm reading this case, I think it's gout, for example. They probably have more serious ones, more technical ones than gout, but just to say gout for the ones that came to my mind right now. And the doctor's like, no. That can't, it's not gout. I thought it's this. And then the doctor would then kind of almost fight the AI against their own biases and their own kind of predeterminations of what it could be. And because of that, they weren't working in unison together and they kind of butt heads with the AI. and then that's why they did the worst, and that's kind of why the reasoning the study came up at the end. So in that regards, the other example I was going to give you is that my dad went to the doctor. He went to a walk-in clinic. He had some pain in the foot, and maybe that's why I said gout, because I think the doctor said that he had gout. I'm like, I don't know if my dad has gout. And then they gave him some medication. They gave him one for anti-inflammatory, and then one was for I think water to reduce water. That last one, I'm not no doctor, but it felt weird for me. So I went on AI. I was like, okay, they gave him this pill. I put it in. I said, this is the name of the pill. This is what they recommended for. This is what they diagnosed him with. Is that common practice? And AI is like, well, the anti-inflammatory, yes, check. That one he could probably continue to take. This one definitely would stop taking that one, and it was the water pill. I'm like, huh, okay, so it worked out well. So I said that maybe go to your family doctor and just get a second opinion. You went to the family doctor. The family doctor agreed with me and the AI, and they told him to stop taking the other pills. So I'm like, okay, so in that regards, AI excites me. AI is a great tool. AI is something that I'm like, I enjoy this. This is exciting. This is what makes me feel happy. But on the flip side, there's the AI 2027 report. So if you can Google AI 2027, a technologist has been in the space for many years, kind of did a report, and he kind of gave two scenarios on where the future of AI will be by 2027. He talks about AGI and ASI. AGI is artificial general intelligence. ASI is artificial superintelligence. Far beyond the intelligence of humans. And both scenarios, I'm not happy with. So, I'm looking at that paper thinking, I'm hoping he's wrong in all accounts. And then I listened to a podcast recently with Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Alphabet and Google, and he's talking about his predictions. Especially within Google, they're anticipating roughly around 2030 for AGI to be hit. And he's talking about what's the next paradigm shift in the space of AI. And he's saying right now everything's happening within the computers, but in the near future he was saying it's going to be start doing the robots. So obviously we have Waymo, those self-driving taxis are pretty much like robots in space, but they're like a car self-driving, a little bit freaky to see it for the first time. But when I see a humanoid robot with AI capabilities and be able to do things that a typical human can do, or maybe you imagine far better than what a human can do, it starts to freak me out, starts to scare me a bit. So the next question I'm asking anybody: are we more excited? Are we more scared? Are we on the fence? Or have you have any unique fun stories about AI that you have kind of done? Have you made a pizza or something using AI recently that kind of makes you feel happy, or just curious what people feel so far?
Well, people write in the chat, how does AI make them feel? Excited, nervous in their workplace. I'll share one of my stories, Eugene, and it's actually navigating recipes. And it's just, I spend way too long time, way a long time searching for the perfect recipe. And I just realized that I can ask it, like, I'm looking for to doing this way with these macros even. It gives me pretty good responses and gets me closer to the answer I want. So we'll talk how we're using it as a search as well.
Sarah, I agree. If robots can make meal prep for me or clean up, yes, bring them on. So that is definitely something I don't mind what they do. So as we go through, if anything else comes to mind as we go, pop in the chat. I'd love to hear it or read it afterwards. But the first part of today's presentation is AI megatrends, tailoring creative donor communication by generation. So we know generations do things differently. They interact with technology in a different way. The messaging that reaches them is unique for that generation. So we will look at those different generations, and what AI and what AI tools are currently available right now that you can possibly use to then tailor your donor communication to those generations in a specific way. Recently, I wrote a blog. It was called From Moon Landings to Live Streams, and it really looked at Blackbaud's recent report and some other reports in the industry, some of some Deloitte and some other organizations, and it really just talks about those generations and like I said, the mediums in which they participate within. So I figured it is a good part right now, before we dive into some of the AI and the ads that we created, this is going to give us a lay of the land and make sure we're on the same playing field of, the different generations and what they stand for, what they mean, what they grew up with. So we'll go into some depth there. So we'll start off with the baby boomers. So baby boomers are 59 to 78 years old. When they are looking at giving and making donations, they are the least spontaneous of the groups. Their biggest emotion when they are donating is hope. This is the generation that is going to give mostly at checkout. So if you're at maybe at Tim Hortons, or maybe if you've gone to Walmart recently and they say, did you want to give to the Children's Aid Network? These are the donors, these are the demographics that is going to give mostly during checkout. And by hopefully no surprise, their preferred medium of choice when kind of watching stuff is TV. So if you look at all the generations, they rank TV the highest as what they prefer to watch. This is also a generation that grew up for the race for space and the rocket and getting the first man on the moon. This is also when you start to have some technology come into the home. They look more like furniture pieces. So if you look at the television, those are big monstrosities of furniture that come into your home, as well as the microwave oven. So they're starting to get some of the basic tech coming into their home. Then we move on to Gen X. So these are individuals that are born in 1966. They are currently 48 to 58 years old. 75% of this generation do research prior to donating to your organization. And actually, this statistic is really, really good across all boards. Majority of all generations is doing research before they donate to you. So this is where it's important to make sure that your website is talking about impact and why it's important. What are you doing with regards to your donations? Making sure your social media and anywhere that you speak about your organization talks about impact and how you're using your donors donations to affect and make meaningful cause for your various causes. So that is important. Their biggest emotion, similar to baby boomers, is also hope. And they are planning to give the same amount this year as they did the year prior. As you can see now here, this is where you start to get a little bit more personalized computing. So this is when you have the desktop computer starting coming into homes. You have the mobile calculator, and you have the cassette player. So once again, are they super sophisticated by today's means and technology? No, but you're starting to see that more kind of shrinking things down a bit and being a little bit more mobile with some of the tech that's out there. Then we move into millennials. So I am born in 1981, so I am at the cusp of a millennial. So now you know my age. I am 43, even though I tend not to say that out loud because then I feel older than I feel. They are the generation that ranked easy donation process. So when they want to make a donation, they want the process to be as simple and as convenient as possible. So when you are looking at your mobile donation forms, your desktop donation forms, limit the amount of clicks, make sure that you reduce things like cognitive overload and distractions from your pages, make it as easy for them to get to point A to point B. They plan to give more this year than the year prior. This is also the generation that is most likely to give monthly. So if you are looking for more monthly donors, which I'm assuming all of you are, this is the generation that we would like you, or more likely to do that for you. And I think being a millennial and kind of seeing that, I think it's because we are more used to subscriptions. If you think about now, everything I have is a subscription based. If I want to watch Apple TV, it's subscription. Netflix, subscription. Spotify, subscription. So I think we're built into that kind of small amounts on a regular basis type of fee structure. And then if you look at the type of mediums and things that they liked to spend their free time, they rank browsing the web as the highest in this group. This is also the generation that grew up with the video game console. So I am a Nintendo baby. So, I definitely was one of my first most exciting gifts was my Nintendo. Then there was the DVD player and the CD player. And then you have the personal laptop. So tech is becoming a little more sophisticated, being a little more portable, a lot more interactive. And this is the tech that we grew up with during that time frame. And then we look at Gen Z. They are currently born in 1997, or at least that the start of that demographic is born then, and they're 12 to 27. So my daughter, she's turned 12 this year, so I'm guessing she's at the cusp of a millennial. So my daughter is at the end of one generation. I'm at the beginning of another generation. So fun times ahead for all of us. So they ranked happiest as the happiness as the highest emotion when donating. They are also the generation that is most triggered by current events. So if they see emergency relief and the floods that's happening, wildfires are happening, and a call to action to donate, this is the generation that's going to be most likely to donate during that time. They are also the most spontaneous when they are donating. So they may not have put a lot of thought. They made a little bit of research, but they thought, hey, I thought this, I read about this. They do some quick research, they pull up their phone, and then they donate. And not much other thought process happens. These are when the donors are most spontaneous. And also they have a generation that is 80% are playing video games. So that is this generation in a nutshell. At the same time, this generation is also ranked anxiety as a very high emotion that they feel when they donate as well. So if anybody's read the Angst and Generation, that book, you can definitely see why maybe this generation maybe feels a little bit more anxiety as well. This is the generation that also grew up with a mobile phone. This is the mobile generation. This is the connected generation. As you can see, they also grew up with Wi-Fi and, like I said, mobile devices, and also all the social media apps. So, the TikTok to the Instagrams and all the other ones that are out there at the moment. So those are pretty much the generations that we have, and kind of what it kind of affects their donations and how they donate and why they donate. So now we are going to go through and talk about, how can we create ads using AI for these unique generations and for these various generations. So we start off with baby boomers. I'll lay the foundation of what we did here. So we created a fictitious charity called Canine Crib. So if you ever worked with Stella and the digital team here at ST, Canine Recovery is our fictitious charity that we do for any pilot programs, any pilot events, or when we create fictitious ads. We like Canine Recovery because who doesn't like puppies, right? And at the same time, the ad that we created is called Tales of Hope, where every tale tells a story. So in the first one that we created here, it talks about a story of Charlie, and he's a rescue dog, and we created a direct marketing piece. So I will go through each ad. I'll kind of talk about the ad itself, what you're going to see, and then I'll say what is generated through AI, how we use AI to generate these ads, and then if we ran into any pitfalls or where we see any roadblocks with this moving forward. So in this particular one here, I'll read it out to you. Every tale tells a story. Charlie's stories is the story of recovery, is just the beginning. Rescue, restore, reunite. Then we have the calls to action. So for this generation, we want to give them the option to donate online. If possible, there is a QR code they can scan. But at the same time, we also understand that this generation may also feel more comfortable calling in or mailing in their donation. So we gave those two other calls to action, which is call or mail in. And then we tell a story about Charlie and the owner. So in the blurb at the bottom, Charlie arrived barely able to walk. Arthritis has stolen his mobility, and his previous family had given up. Our rescue provided specialized veterinary care, physical therapy, and a custom mobility harness. Today, Charlie walks again, brings joy to a loving senior home, and proves that hope has no age limit. Your $75 gift can transform a senior dog's life. So you can kind of see here, there is that emotion that talks about, an elderly dog and an elderly patient to kind of resonate with the actual audience that this direct market piece will be going to. It tells about the impact, how your donation will be able to impact and support, and how it was able to help Charlie in this specific case. And then the kind of strategy or the overall theme was generated by me, kind of thinking about, tales of hope, and every tale tells a story. So I did use AI to kind of help me refine every tale tells a story in that piece there, because after we came up with the name Tales of Hope for the campaign, so AI did a really good job of kind of like, what are some additional taglines I could use that could work with this initial campaign. They gave me several. I liked some, I didn't like others. You had to kind of reprompt it and work with what I was trying to get at. And I thought that every tale tells a story, rescue, restore, reunite was pretty good. So that's kind of the theme that you see throughout the ads that are here. And then at the end, I was able to use AI to then prompt to say, hey, give me a message that tells me a story about an elderly dog and an elderly individual, and how your donations can help. And I gave him some additional prompts and help me kind of fine tune the bottom part, which is Charlie arrived today, be able to walk. And then we used another AI tool to generate the image. So once again, I wanted something more nostalgic. I wanted it to be outdoors. I wanted a certain type of lighting, a warm lighting, and I wanted the dog and the owner to be like in an embrace. And this is the image that it generated, all generated by AI. And if I'm looking at it, it's hard for me to tell that it was AI generated. So it did a really pretty good job at that. And then I just used Photoshop to kind of combine everything together and create this direct ad. Are baby boomers inclined to use QR codes? Any insight on receptivity usage by this group? They are becoming more accustomed. So if my mom and dad are in that baby boomers demographic, and I think did they need my help in the beginning to how to use the QR code? Check, yes. I had to walk them through, but I think more and more lately now you have to, even if you step your iPhone now, you get a new iPhone, is please scan the QR code to transfer from your old phone to your new phone. So they are using it, but at the same time, this is also the demographic is probably more susceptible now to QR code fraud, and they may be reading some of the news articles that happen. There's a lot of like fraud happening. I read one recently where Amazon packages are coming to your door or other reputable thing, and they put like oh, scan the QR code to get more information. It's a fake QR code. Or if you see like the outdoor in public, there's a QR code out in media and billboards where there's a QR code on it. They say make sure you check it, so when you scan it, it goes it's not an overlay or an image that's stuck on top of it. So I think they may be more susceptible to QR code fraud, and as they read, they may be more and more inclined to be more and more skeptical, and it may be hard to determine what is real, what is not real. And they may just avoid that completely, where millennial may be like, no, I trust this, I know where this came from. They'll check out for the warning sign. So I think QR codes is in that little bit of a
if
tricky
I can
spot at this
add
point
to
now.
that,
Yeah, go.
Eugene, I think also we saw a shift during COVID because of everyone had like get exposed to QR codes. I think now it's different. Baby boomers are more aware of QR codes, and at the end, we also have to be mindful that we don't know who is going to receive this at the end, right? And if we need to give the option to donate in multiple ways, and it's either the QR code or a long URL, right? And this will likely be what seems more familiar as well. But I definitely think that's due to COVID, and while we were the vaccine passports, and there was just such an overwhelming exposure to QR codes that it's more familiar now to them.
Yeah. Adriana, did we answer your question? Or if you have a substantive follow-up question, happy to address it now. But if not, appreciate it. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, so then we move into the next ad that we created. So as we look at this one here, this is for Gen X. We felt a good ad for this generation would be a YouTube ad. This generation is watching YouTube, so this would be a great way to reach out to them. In this particular ad, we used AI to come up with our avatar, and I'll explain some of the prompts that we use there. In addition to creating the avatar, there are some still images as well throughout the video that we used AI to create. And then at the same time, we also used AI to help come up with the script a bit. We kind of worked together, AI and myself, to kind of fine tune the kind of the script that happens. And then lastly, we used another AI tool for the voiceover. So the avatar you see right now on the screen, and I will play the video. Uh, I think of animals, and when I think of animals, I think it's because I watched many documentaries from BBC. I think of David Attenborough. So if anybody knows who David Attenborough is, that was kind of the prompt. I used one AI tool. I said, "Okay, listen, how would you describe David Attenborough's look and feel?" So they said, he's an elderly man with a warm eyes, gray hair, bushy eyebrows, a kind smile. So they give me a really nice prompt of what David Attenborough looked like. I used that prompt. I generated one AI to use in another AI to actually then generate the avatar of David Attenborough. And then I use the same AI tool previously. And I said, okay, can you now describe David Attenborough's voice? So they said, okay, his inflection is like this. He has a British accent. And they give me all these other types of prompts to then describe the voice that I wanted. And then I put that into another AI tool that generated then, or was able to read the script that we wrote in a somewhat David Attenborough tone of voice. So I will play the ad, and then I'll talk to you guys about things that I think that worked well and things that maybe were a little bit challenging in creating this ad for YouTube with using AI and the tools that were available. Also, at the same time, I'm going to play the video, and I hope you hear the audio. And if we don't hear the audio, I will then look at Kirsty and Caroline, and hopefully you guys can then help me get the audio to you guys.
Over it. We can't hear the audio.
Cannot hear the audio. Maybe, let me see. I'm going to stop sharing and see if I can share with audio, because something that happens. I'm going to stop sharing really quick. I apologize. And let me just share with audio. Let me see that. Share. Share sound. There it is. I forgot to check the checkbox. Always good. All right. You guys see my screen again?
Yep, we're good.
All right. I'm just going to go back a slide really quick. And then I'll go forward. And now I'll play it.
This is Ripley. Not just another shelter dog, but a story of calculated hope. When Ripley arrived, she was more than just another rescue. Severely injured from a hit and run, she was a complex medical case that most shelters would have overlooked. Multiple fractures, nerve damage, a dog most would have written off as too expensive, too challenging to save. Transformation isn't magic, it's methodical, specialized veterinary care, targeted physical therapy, comprehensive rehabilitation that goes beyond basic healing. Every intervention calculated, every resource strategically deployed. $250. That's what it costs to completely rehabilitate a dog like Ripley. Not a donation, an investment, an intervention that prevents another life from being discarded. Today, Ripley isn't just surviving, she's thriving. Fully recovered, she's now a certified therapy dog, working with children in rehabilitation centers. One dog, multiple lives transformed. Tales of hope, where every rescue is a calculated act of hope. Every tale tells a story. Ripley's story is just one of many. Tales of Hope believes that every rescue deserves a second chance. Every tale tells a story. And right now, dogs like Ripley are waiting for their next chapter. Your support can transform a life. $250 can take a dog from surviving to thriving. Click the link below. Be the hope. Rescue. Restore. Reunite.
So that was that. And Lori, thank you. You kind of prompted a response that I was kind of expecting. So did the ad sound good? I think the voice over and the voice, the way AI voice has definitely changed. Definitely. I personally would not be able to tell that that is a AI generated voice. It has come a long way with regards to how the voiceover is done. Once again, the images. So some of the dog images in this case, Ripley is a German Shepherd, and there are some images where I once again can't tell that the German Shepherd was AI generated. And then in addition to that, some of the other AI tools that we use to then provide some motion to some of those imagery. Sometimes it does a great job, sometimes it doesn't. And you'll see throughout some of the other ads we will be going through where there is video, creating a video with consistency. So you get your AI characters, or even if it's not an AI character, if it's a real person that you maybe don't have, them in a video shoot, or you want to animate them, you want to create a video with them, keeping that individual consistent throughout each of the various frames, it will be a little bit of a challenge. So in general, where I think AI did well in this, once again, coming up with a still image, I think it did a great job. I do think there are points, the David Attenborough at times could look a little bit creepy and kill a bit freak. There are sometimes at a glance, quick, it could look a little bit, real. But it is going to show that the power of AI, they are continually advancing. Obviously there is a slide towards the end of this where I talk about, the various AI tools that were used, but there is a new tool that is not on the slides is Google's VO3. So now it's adding audio to imagery, and it is constantly evolving at the pace at which it is continuing to expand. And if you really put a lot of effort into this, you can do a lot more better jobs. If I had a lot more time to kind of invest into these ads, you could tweak it, fine tune certain things, and I think that's where AI is right now. It definitely does save you. If you may not have a larger budget or to kind of do a whole tool to do like a production team and all that stuff to kind of do all these things, AI can help you do it quicker and more effectively. It is massaging and work that needs to be done to allow certain things to happen. But once again, I think the storytelling I think AI helped us do a really great job with the voiceover, the still imagery. But I do think for a longer video ad, you have to be very selective on the visuals and the items you do choose to put into it. So I do agree with you, Lori, that in this particular one, I do agree with you that David Attenborough looks kind of off, but you can start to see where the tech is going and how you'll be able to use it in the near future as these AI tools start to get a little bit better and more sophisticated. The next one here,
this is Ripley.
It's gonna play again, is an Instagram ad. So this is another story that we went through. We felt like for millennials, it would be a really good job to kind of walk through an Instagram ad. And once again, I will play it and we can talk about, the pros, the cons, what we think we did well here, and, what we can do using this for this medium, for this generation.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round. And you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move.
$25 a month provides critical medical care, rehabilitation, and training for one rescue dog. That means healing surgeries, specialized training, and the chance to find a forever home. Tales of Hope, like Bella's, turns your monthly gift into real second chances. Donate today.
Here, I think AI did a much better job. I think there's a still image where we kind of pan in and we see the dog's eye. I can't tell that's fake. There is a part where there's a dog jumping, a little fake. Maybe if there's a real ad going out to market, I'll probably remove that frame, added a different video frame into it. But, for the most part here, AI did a much better job of, the prompts, the images we chose. And I think it was able to tell a really meaningful story here. I also tried out different AI audio tools to create generic, sort of more unique and tailor specific audio. Right now, I went with Rise Up because obviously in Instagram and in TikTok, sometimes trending songs helps you, get more views if you're using those types of trending songs. So, my recommendation is probably if you want to use maybe a trending song, then definitely one that you can definitely use one that maybe fits the overall messaging of the campaign. If you want to create an AI generated song or music background, that because you want it to fit better with the overall theme, or you want to do something very unique to the campaign, I played around with a few of them. I'll tell you which ones I play around with. They do a pretty good job there too, and you can kind of do like I want like a classical song tied with an upbeat tone. I want a female voiceover. You can play around those prompts and you can come up with some pretty cool AI. My daughter and I had some fun playing around with that. My son, we came up with a Latin one for one that maybe we could use for the next ad we did for TikTok. That was pretty good. But yeah, I do think AI in this iteration, you can kind of see how you can use it. We used it for all the still imagery, all the motion imagery, and then the voiceover once again, and was working with AI to kind of come up with the prompts on what was generated. That was used for this particular Instagram ad. So the IP and licensing, I think I'm assuming, Sharon, you're talking about the music, Rise Up. It's a similar type of way you'd have to work with any of the other IP licensing regarding the audio that's there. For like the music, for like the other voiceover stuff, they're all generated by AI prompts. Those you can use, and you're pretty much free to use those throughout. Hopefully, I answered. Oh.
Same as images, right, Eugene?
Images, yeah, same with images. Obviously, if you're asking to look like a specific celebrity or star, you probably don't want that. You don't want to take Brad Pitt and saying, I really think Brad Pitt would be great for this, and just use him, those IPs, since that's probably not. Yes, I will walk you through those, Lori, the different AI tools. I have a slide at the very end that walks through those AI tools. The next one here is for Gen Zs. Gen Z, they are on TikTok. And this is where you can use AI to do fun things and kind of pick up those viral trends. So there is a viral trend right now where you can have miniature, individuals doing a task. So I've seen ads where you've had, for a luxury car maker, little miniature mechanics working on a BMW, working on a Aston Martin, and they're fine-tuning. It really kind of shows like the attention to detail, the care it takes. It takes all these little people to do all these big things. I've also seen one where they had it for a cosmetic surgery places, where they had all these little miniature doctors working on the face and putting little fillers in and removing fine lines and stuff. So it is a viral trend that happened. I don't know if anybody's seen it. If you have, maybe put a thumbs up in the chat. So we thought it would be fun to play on this viral trend. This is not meant to be, something that looks like it was real. This is supposed to look like it was generated. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to play on the emotion, especially for this generation that feels happiness the most when they donate. How can we create a happy video that ties into that emotion, makes them feel something, and then makes them want to donate really quick? And that's what we kind of wanted to do with this. So we created little little miniature veterinarians working on a puppy. And the funny thing here is, one of the things I had the hardest thing is that I went into one tool, Midjourney, and I said, create miniature, people working on a puppy. And then Midjourney responded back saying that goes against our guidelines. I'm like, against our guidelines? So I like, okay, I think the thing like I'm trying, manipulate for, the vulnerable group, like, I guess now that I want to say that they're called small people. I think they prefer. I think small people. So you can't use those terms. I think that they think I'm trying to maybe make fun of that particular group or use them in an inappropriate way. So I had to then use this. I use this actually in ChatGPT and say, can you create an image of miniature people working on it? I think and ChatGPT was more than happy to kind of generate that. So playing around with the various AI tools and what they accept or don't accept in their rules was kind of fun to play around with to get the miniature images. So I'll play this and you can kind of see how this ad pans out. Kissy face, sent to your phone, but I'm trying to kiss your lips for real. Red hearts, that's what I'm on, yeah. Come give me something I can feel. So once again, really fun, just little, people kind of dancing around, shimmying. Once again, when I was doing this, my kids were having a lot of fun with me, saying, "Oh, Dad, I like the little guy shimmering on the top. Can you add more little soapy bubbles?" So were playing on having fun with it, and it just kind of shows like these are things that they laughed and had fun watching it, and that's what we were trying to do. We're trying to evoke that emotion and get people to donate. So that's what we used here. So these are the ads we created for Tales of Hope. I think AI, for the most part, does a pretty good job. And the scary part is that it's better and better as we continue. So, Lori, to your point, the AI tools that were used in the development of these ads and this creative. So, from a general standpoint, at Stella, the first couple, the first three here. So I'm just gonna, if you see my cursor here, Fundraise Up, Dotaro, and Google PMax are products that we use often. In addition to not just creating the ads, because so for Fundraise Up perspective, it is an AI generated donation form. So as you create these ads and you're driving people to your donation forms, you want a donation form that is easy to use, gets people from point A to point B. Check Fundraise Up does that. In addition to that, this is one of the tools, and I guess many other platforms, Blackbaud's coming up with ones, and all the other ones are kind of also trying to figure out how they can incorporate AI into their donation forms. This will start to become more and more popular, and in Fundraise Up's example, they use AI to do certain things like, looking at what device are you coming in on? Are you coming in from an iPhone? Or are you coming in from an Android device? And then using their AI to generate, dynamic ask amounts. And they realize, hey, for your organization, any donors that coming in from Apple tend to giving higher donation amounts. So we're going to give them a higher ask matrix than we were for people coming on an Android device. We also know that people are tending to donate more during the hours of 7 to 9 p.m. Once again, if it's during that time frame, we're going to give you a higher ask amount. Same thing to look at location. People, maybe in Vancouver versus people in Toronto. Who's giving more than serving them up the appropriate content as well as ask matrices to convert higher and more donations. Dotero is an AI tool that uses your data, looks at all your data, and kind of looks at, for example, like your mailing, and it's saying, hey, listen, we saw that you mailed 6 times, and each mailing went out to 200,000 people. We think through our AI tool, you can probably do 3 mailings to 50,000 people, save some costs, and you get a better return and a higher return. So you're going to be saving money on how you direct your marketing pieces, but then you also then will get a higher return on that investment afterwards. So that's what Dotero is doing. And then from PMax, as you work with your digital acceleration, PMax is a great tool. It takes various aspects of the ads, your images, uses it, and decides where it's best suited to reach your target audience to then allow them to come and donate. So those are some of the tools that we're using in addition to what we talked about today. But for other stuff that we use, for example, writing of the copy, brainstorming, coming up with even now deep research. These tools are doing a pretty good job at. If you have an in-depth topic you want to investigate, those are, if you look over here, the green here is ChatGPT, which is pretty much the kind of the generic term that everybody's using. It's becoming like tissue now, where it's I ChatGPT'd it. Even if I didn't use ChatGPT per se, I ChatGPT'd it. Then there's Claude. I really like Claude for messaging. Sometimes it is personal preference, but when I felt like I had to kind of fine tune some of my messaging, I felt Claude did a really good job of that. Claude is also really well known for coding. It's continually one of the top ones in like coding. Then I use Gemini, and Gemini, where Google maybe last year felt like they invented it, but then they fell behind. This year, especially if you looked at their recent developer conference, I/O, they're really have caught up, and their models are at the top, if not at the best at the moment on a lot of them. And then we use CapCut to kind of, it has AI tools built into it for some of the video editing. I didn't use any of the AI tools for the video editing. Basically, I created the video somewhere else, and I use CapCut to kind of just piece it all together and then put some of the text overlays on it. In this particular example, the ones we use today, I use Midjourney. And Midjourney for the longest period of time has been the standard of kind of like AI generated text to image format. So Midjourney was really good. I still think Midjourney is very, very good. But other models, like for example, ChatGPT is starting to come up there and starting to compete with kind of the images that it generates. Google has something called Imagine, Imagen. So which are paid. So some of them are paid, some of them are free. They all have a free version. With free versions, you get like a couple credits to create stuff. Some of the paid versions, they're not really overly expensive. $30 a month for a lot of them charge. Kling AI, the video that was a little more expensive. So that one but they do really great job of like image to video. Midjourney also doesn't have a free plan. Midjourney you have to pay for. But Midjourney doesn't do a good job if you want text over top of images. So if you want an image with text in it, Midjourney it does not do a good job of that. Whereas ChatGPT, they've reinvented how their model works and how they generate the images, and it will generate text on images really, really well now. Same with Google's Imagine. They do a pretty good job there too. From video, voice, and music. So for taking a video, like for example, David Attenborough, creating his avatar to text, so his lips move in sync. We used HeyGen. We also use Runway ML. So a lot of some of the still photos we used, I put into Runway ML to kind of create that movement in the images. Kling AI is also a good one. In video, also created in videos when I use for the TikTok. So I created the prompt and the image inside of ChatGPT. Then I put it in video to animate it. So when you saw like the little meta shimmying and dancing, it was done through in video. 11 Labs was all the voiceovers. So 11 Labs is probably the one that's most popular in creating the audio voiceovers, and they have a lot of predefined ones. And then they also have ones you can then type in, like I did. Like I want a specific tone of voice. I want it to mimic a voice that I feel comfortable with. You can put those prompts into the actual AI there, and it will generate a voiceover for you. And you just provide the script. And then I did use, even though I didn't use it in any of the videos, I did play around with it, and they were pretty fun, and they were free. Sono and Udio are the two music tools you generated by AI, where you can create a full song. You can even give it a script and it read. So some of the songs we created actually said "Tales of Hope," and I'm not gonna try singing because then you guys will all drop off, and I won't do that. But they do a pretty good job doing those ones there. So those are some of the tools I've used. Obviously, there are many other tools that are out there. These are some of the most popular ones. I will put in a chat because, funny enough, today I was on my walk with my pup, and as I was on my walk with my pup, I was listening to a podcast, and the podcast talked about her name is let me see, I can't remember her name. Let me see. Her name is Jen Adero. No, that doesn't sound right. Joanna Stern is her name. Joanna Stern. She's from the Wall Street Journal. She actually dived into VO3, which is Google's new video editor tool that has built-in audio. So they actually do the voiceovers and talk, and it does a really great job of even adding in like sound effects. If you say, for example, me and Carolina in a boxing match, it would add in the boxing sounds, like of the punches and the blows, and it does a really good job there. And you can start to see the advancements in that. So I will put the YouTube chat, because when I got home from the walk, she said she did a whole YouTube video. It's a short 7 minutes. And funny, I watched it this morning before today's call, and they used a lot of the same tools that I use, and some of her frustrations or what they had to do to get a consistent person throughout the entire frame, all the different frames that they use, and all the work that they had to generate. She did a really good job explaining it. So, if I shared it at the beginning, then you guys would have dropped off and watched that instead. So now that's what I'm giving you to at the end. I'll put the chat here for Joanna Stern. It's only 7 minutes long, but she does a really good job in those 7 minutes of kind of highlighting what we just talked about and some of the nuances and the difficulties of using this as a tool to drain everything. But what the potential is in the near future is going to be quite scary, as I talked about in the beginning. So I'll paste that here. So it is in the chat now for all you guys to grab and see. And then Carolina, you asked a question about the audio video thing. So perfect. So now the next part of the presentation is going to be my best attempt to do Bryan's part. So I will go through that and talk to you guys about how to determine what makes sense for your own organizations. And then as you go, you kind of think through that question, and then while also continue to build an authentic philanthropic relationship. And I think that is some of the things we talked about, and even some of the comments that have come into today's conversation here is, how do we do this authentically, right? How do we, use AI and still come across as authentic in our messaging, and what that means for your organization. And in doing that, you have to think about AI and those authentic interactions, and then and how much of that is going to be driven by the machine, and how much of that is going to be driven by the human, the people aspect of it, right? And where you as an organization feel comfortable. And as we go through the different levels of AI, you have level 0, which is all human. You don't use AI. And there are some organizations and there's some clients that we work with that say, hey, listen, if you do work for us, if you're coming up with strategy, if you're coming up with copy for us, do not use AI. We don't want any AI used, and that's perfectly fine. We will abide by that. And then there's various degrees of level 1, mostly human, so you use AI for some things. Half and half. You kind of work hand in hand with AI to generate things and to work through problems. And then the lastly is level 3 is mostly machine, and then now lastly at level 4 it's all machines. And then determining those parts it really comes down to your organization, right? What you as an organization feel is important, and how you generate your messaging, how you communicate with your donors, and where do you feel AI fits in that thing. I don't think there is a right answer or a wrong answer. It's really kind of where you feel comfortable as an organization. And then also then on the flip side, while you have to look at your own organization, it's also very much important to look at your donors. What does your donors want? How do your donors want to be interacted with? Do they feel like it is authentic? And Joanna Stern actually talked about that when she posted her video on YouTube and on I guess X and Twitter. A lot of the feedback was half and half. She had a lot of people saying, "Oh my God, that's amazing! This is great," and then you have a lot of people that are saying, "Oh, this is so inauthentic. This is terrible. How can you use AI? It's just disingenuous. You can use it." And it's funny because these are the same things that we were talking through and wrestling through as an organization as we were kind of curating this presentation, is looking at where people see fit there, right? So if I go back into all machine, where can you use machine? Where do we think at this point in time using machine is important or useful? Boilerplate directions in briefs, we think AI can be used there. First draft copy, AI does a really great job. If you prompt it well enough and detail enough, it can give you a really good first draft, and then you use a real human then to kind of massage and fine tune. We saw that in the ads we created too. AI did a pretty good job. We came up with the overall theme and strategy and prompted the tool, and then have it come back to us with some really good messaging that we can then fine tune. Alternate outer envelope headlines and email subject lines. AI does that. You can ask to give me I want 15 different variations of this, and it can pop it through, and you can pick and choose which ones you like, or combine multiple ones and doing those. Adapting a final DM copy to a first draft of an email. So if you have really good DM copy that you've used and you want to create a first draft email, you just prompt it saying, hey, listen, this is the final copy we have for X. We want to manipulate this text to work well with email. How would you take upon that? How would you draft or reconfigure this copy that we have to fit this medium in a more effective way? Tweaks to imagery. I'll show you an example in the next slide of how we can use it to do tweaks to imagery. Speaking about authentic, imagery. This image is, a real individual, was a real photo shoot, a real cancer survivor for Canadian cancer. However, the image ended right over here. So we're just beyond our hand. We needed a little bit more real estate for it to fit within the outer envelope that we were doing for Canadian cancer. So what ended up happening, we used AI to just extend the image. We didn't touch the person. We didn't touch the emotion, the genuine, the generosity, not the generosity, but the genuine, the genuine aspect of the photo has not been kind of taken away by what we did with AI. So you can see here, it was used so we can fit this little copy here within the image, within the outer envelope. So that's what we felt like AI can do a really good job and help you save some time. Because if you have to do it yourself, without using AI to generate those that extent, it would take a little bit more time, a little bit more of a heavier lift. In addition to that, when is it good to use a human to create copy and content for your organization? Developing strategy, like for example, in the Tales of Hope, that strategy, that messaging around that campaign, that even though it's fictitious, was human generated, and we used AI to kind of help fine tune it. Messaging directions. Where do you want to take the messaging? How you want the message to be? You want this type of tone or this type of impact, or you want to really focus on X. Human input is important. Questions and interviewing beneficiaries. You definitely don't want AI doing your interviews when you're dealing with these individuals. You want a human interaction, human questions, and feedback from that. Integrating nuances of the brand. AI it has a little bit harder time of figuring out those various nuances for your brand. Every brand is unique, and you can't create those generalities that AI tends to do. So those nuances are important that you bring in that human aspect to it. Integrating nuance of the CEO and the beneficiary voice. Once again, similar to before, those nuances, those uniquenesses of the voice from your CEO or your beneficiaries has to come from the human, can't come from the AI. Copy revisions, use AI to create the initial draft, but then it is important that a human goes over it and takes out some of those harshnesses or things that are inconsistent with the brand or things that just don't sound right, don't feel right, and have a human kind of do those additional revisions. Integrating channels conceptually, also very important to come up with that overall strategy we talked about before. And this is something that popped into Bryan's social media feed, and it was an ad for sick kids. And this is not a shot to sick kids. This is not saying that it is a bad ad, but it definitely plays into that kind of that first slide about what's right for your organization, what's right for your donors. The organization felt, yeah, this was good. Looking at the child off the beginning, obviously you could tell it's fake because he's surrounded by super large candles. But you can kind of look at the skin tone. It's very polished. It's very smooth, very much airbrushed. So maybe this is a real child that they used as a photo and then they generated it into the ad. We weren't a part of that, so I can't say yay or nay on it. But it could have been also fully AI driven. And the reason why we brought it up is because when Bryan first saw this, those are thoughts that came to his mind. But at the same time, he then went through the comments. And as he was reading through the comments, David Shore said Sick Kids is great, but maybe don't use AI to create your ads. So obviously this donor still loves the brand of Sick Kids, but wasn't happy that he felt that the image was generated through AI. So once again, it's coming back to, as we start to use AI more often, you are going to get, even if you use a real person, you may have people saying that's AI generated. We are starting to lose that authenticity in our voice, in our messaging, and people are far more skeptical about that, saying that this is not real, it's fake. Yeah, you use this fake content, fake people, and people are upset with it. And some people say, hey, listen, this is the world. As long as you still get the same emotion out of it, they don't care if it's AI generated or not, right? So where does it feel right to use it? And that's something that us as organizations, us as agencies, will have to struggle and work together to kind of fine tune and figure what's best for us. How to recognize machine versus human, terse tone. So the shortness, the abruptness of AI, it definitely makes it can feel it's more fake. You can see it's more AI generated versus being involved with some form of humanity in it. Generic emotional tone. Sometimes it can lack that empathy, can lack that emotional impact. And that's what we don't want. We don't want it to feel like it's just generated by a machine and it's lacking that emotion. Copy lacks empathy. We just talked about that. Brand inconsistency, a lack of nuances around the brand. There are AI tools now where you can, especially some of the more premium ones, where you can upload all your information about your brand into the AI, and then your color palette, your tone, your this, your that, and it will start to use that as it generates it, but I think you can still, miss things if you just use just AI. You have to kind of make sure that there's a human there involved in making sure that, even though you prompt and you gave it all those scenarios and all those guidelines, that it's following it and it's still flowing the way you want it to flow. Missing cultural sensitivities, AI sometimes can pick up on those subtleties. So it's important to kind of look through those through your copy. Over reliance on stats. There's abundance of stats online. It's easy to kind of push and promote and throw in all the stats to make it look and feel more, trustworthy. But sometimes they can be over reliant on those stats and lack some of the human voice in your copy. Playing to inner donor skepticism about authenticity, and the sameness. So obviously with AI, it's pulling from the vastness of the internet, and it's kind of creating generalizations, and that generalization then leads into quote unquote that sameness feel. It feels like, oh, I read that before. It sounds familiar. They're using a lot of colloquial sayings consistently, or those type of things. So you want to make sure that you avoid that sameness, or that's so you can definitely recognize that it is a machine. So I guess as we wrap up today's presentation on AI, is really just really determining how much is going to be human and how much is going to be generated through AI, and how we wrestle through that together in the next years, as we can use more and more AI and becomes more and more prevalent in everyday life that we do. So that's pretty much everything. I will pause, I know we're pretty much almost at time, or a little over time. If anybody's still here, if there's any other questions you guys want to talk about, anything you guys want to bring up, more than happy to kind of take the time now to kind of go through some of those questions. And if you guys don't, or if you want, Bryan to speak more eloquently about some of his parts, more than happy that you guys can reach out to us, and Bryan will be more than happy when he's back to kind of talk to you guys. Or if you guys want to reach out, talk to us, we're more than happy to subsequent calls.
Yes, you will be receiving a recording of the presentation, and you can respond to that email if you're really wanting to hear Bryan or have questions for Eugene and continue the conversation. We're happy to find a way how to your organization, where is the right spot for AI on it, and continue talking. Thank you, everyone who stayed. Have a great afternoon.
Bye, everybody.